I'm Cordray, and I'm doing my small business owner interview presentation on Cordray Taxidermy. Who I interviewed and contact information. I decided to interview my cousin, Kenneth Cordray, for multiple reasons. Foremost, he's a fairly recent Clemson graduate, and he's done quite well for himself and his family. Also, he possesses the entrepreneurial qualities and spirit that any small business owner has to possess. I listed his address right here and a link to the web address where you can find a lot of his pictures and work that he's done. Initial opportunity. His initial opportunity really began with our family's history. Our great-grandfather actually owned a small herd of beef cattle, and he ended up processing the meat himself and using his horse and wagon to sell the meat. And it actually got passed down from generation to generation, and my grandfather and his grandfather pursued that as well. And his father actually took it to another level when he integrated it for hunters and opened up a venison processing facility. And that's done quite well over the years. And Kenneth actually learned a lot from his father working in his business, and used to see how many people needed the mounts, or a lot of people wanted the mounts for their prized deer, their trophy deer. So he would see how much money was going out of the door for all those mounts and stuff that he could be doing. It also had to do with his brother. In high school, he started a small taxidermy business in which he would do European mounts, which are basically just skull mounts. And he did really well, even though he ended up not pursuing that career. And Kenneth, that was even just more insight into what Kenneth thought he could do in the future. He really got a little bit more serious about it in college. Freshman year of college, he thought about it. And by his sophomore year, he decided to pay a taxidermist in Liberty, South Carolina, to kind of apprentice under him and to help him learn the trade and get him started in the right direction. And he started his sophomore year at Clemson in 2007 and just worked his butt off every chance he got. In between classes, he'd go to a shop and help him work. Making it. Although he was somewhat nervous and unsure when he first got started, Kenneth knew the business would make it within the first year after starting. He had already paid the other taxidermists for all of the training fees. He already had a great customer base because of his dad's business. And that was pretty much a lot of the reason for him starting the business in the first place. And that proved fairly successful from the beginning. And as I and he like to call it, it was kind of like a one-stop shop for all the customers for both his business and his dad's business. The business reached its break-even point in October of 2008, and a lot of that is due to the low amount of startup cost. Some of the largest strategic decisions made were that of the shop expansion, which happened 3 times over the last 4 to 5 years, hiring an additional employee, adding the alligator species to the species list of mounts done. The alligator season actually started after he became a taxidermist, and that actually made his business jump up dramatically. He also bought a hydrographics business out, and that has a lot to do. It's almost a whole nother business altogether. Sometimes they dip car parts to produce, a lot of times, people like camouflage rims and things of that sort. But the main reason he bought it was for camouflage skull mounts. A lot of people like to do that, and that was fairly popular when it wasn't his business, so he decided to buy the other fellow out. Advice that he gave me, he said to get ready for very long hours, both at work and at home, planning for work. One must be completely devoted to the business. And he also said if you're in a relationship, your spouse or significant other really needs to be completely on board with whatever you're doing. Because if not, you could potentially have big problems down the road. While purchasing an existing business, he said, make sure you deal with the carryover employees correctly and in the right fashion. Although he didn't have this problem, he saw this in his brother's dental business. So that could be something else you'd have to look at if you were buying a business. Why he was so successful. Kenneth has been very successful, I would say more so than most other taxidermists I've ever heard of, because he was able to see an opportunity at a very young age, and he did something about it. He was able to work hard and take action on that. As mentioned, a large part of his success he credits to having a well-established customer base due to his dad's processing business. At the end of the day, though, it really comes down to doing the job right. And he has to give the customers exactly what they want and produce a nice and high-quality animal mount. And I think that's really what put him over the edge. Here's some photos of some of the work he's done. This is an alligator under a table. Some ducks. This is an alligator and him in the center, a deer and a coyote. So thank you very much, and I